I moved away from my hometown and everyone I knew since kindergarten in the summer before high school back in 1988. And I moved to an apartment complex with a pool where I spent that summer meeting lots of new kids. One of which was named Eddie, and he helped me get rid of the only toys that I couldn't even give away at the yard sale before we moved. My Star Wars toys. I traded them all to him for this little set of lead Dungeons and Dragons figures. Boy, if only I had held onto those Star Wars toys for a few more decades, I could have sold them now and retired. Anyway, I took this set and I painted them all with my little glass bottles of enamel paint. Oh, Eddie also told me that he had the world's largest collection of heavy metal cassettes, but they were locked in a bank vault and he couldn't show them to me. Well, it was around that time that I met another kid at the pool, about 2.5 years older than me, named Sean. Now, he lived in a house right next to the apartment complex, and we had a lot of things in common, namely comic books and Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I couldn't wait to show him all my newly painted figures, which Sean called leads. But when he saw them, he said, "Eddie stole those from me." "Well, you can have them now because you ruined them with those enamel paints." "Why would you cover them with enamel paint?" There were other kinds of paints? Who knew? Well, Sean introduced me to acrylic paints, and he showed me how to do techniques such as dry brushing and applying a wash. And we used them on these other leads that he had. This was my favorite, and this was Sean's favorite. And to this day, it's the only paint I use for all of my artwork. Sean also introduced me to heavy metal music from his cassette collection, which wasn't as large as Eddie's fabled collection because Sean's fit in a little white plastic goblet that he kept on top of a speaker in his room. Cassettes like Anthrax's I'm the Man, Slayer's Rain and Blood, and Stormtroopers of Death's Speak English or Die. He also had all these posters around his room of the cover paintings to the Iron Maiden albums featuring a character named Eddie. And lastly, on the back of his door, he had all of these drawings of original superheroes that he said were created by his friend Daryl Shakely. Daryl had introduced Sean to comic books and Dungeons and Dragons and lots of new music, and then he moved away. As we entered the second half of that summer, I went to Italy for 6 weeks with my mom and my brother. It was in Italy that I got my first girlfriend, or two. Almost 4, but I ran out of time. It's a nice summer. Now, when I returned to America, it was a week into the school year, but in my art class, there were lots of drawings of Iron Maiden's Eddie all over the walls. I didn't mention it to Sean for a few years, but when I did, he told me those were all his drawings that he had made back when he took that class. Sean and I would have adventures for years. He even taught me how to drive, and it was through Sean that I met another one of our old friends named Lincoln. Lincoln and I bought surfboards and we went to the beach every Thursday, even though there were no waves to surf on. And a little while after my daughter was born, I even moved into Lincoln's house with him and his twin brother Lance. Well, about 15 years after the summer that Sean and I met, with the help of the internet, I tracked down his old friend Daryl and found out that he had gotten a few comic books published. And I reunited him with Sean. Now, I myself haven't seen Sean in the last 7 years, except I reunited with him a few months ago for his 50th birthday out on Fort Myers Beach. And that's when he told me that Daryl died last year. A month after Sean's birthday, Hurricane Irma hit Fort Myers Beach and wiped it off the map. And a few weeks back, I met the artist that painted those Iron Maiden album covers, and I got him to sign my art book. Look, he even drew a picture of Eddie. Oh, and I got these action figures of my favorite Eddie character from the poster Somewhere in Time and the song Stranger in a Strange Land. Well, shortly after that, I got a message from Sean. He let me know that Lincoln's brother Lance has just died. And a few days later, I jumped out of a plane.
Seem to have reached the age where life stops giving us things and starts taking them away.